I know there is so much going on domestically and people just struggle to meet their everyday demands. But things are happening around the world which have the potential to impact on us and many like-minded countries. Now, I mentioned yesterday about world food shortages. Indeed, the reputable journal The Economist headlined on its front page, and I quote, "The food catastrophe." I've mentioned before the extraordinary resource endowment of Ukraine. Coal, iron ore, natural gas, manganese, salt, oil, graphite, sulphur, titanium, nickel, magnesium, timber, mercury. The list is endless. Russia wants the stuff. Ukraine's output of grain and potatoes is amongst the highest in Europe. With the Russian invasion, food exports have been severely interrupted, and that will create food security issues around the world. Much of Ukraine's corn and wheat has gone to Africa and West Asia. If Ukraine's food exports are disturbed, and they are, global food security is going to be a big issue. There are villages around Kiev where thousands of tons of grain have been destroyed or left to rot. Russian forces have targeted grain elevators and fertiliser plants, leaving the infrastructure in pieces. Last year's grain harvest is still in the country. 25 million tonnes of grain, a lot of it corn, because Odessa's ports, through which 98% of its grain exports normally pass, are blockaded by the Russians. Getting grain to alternative ports in Romania, Bulgaria and the Baltics is hard. And the problems are not restricted to Ukraine. In India, the wheat crops have been battered by severe winds and hail in February, and in Uttar Pradesh, about 700 kilometres southeast of Delhi, the wind and hail have been followed by unseasonal heat, which has shrivelled the wheat crop. There are suggestions in India that the wheat yield is down by a quarter. The result is that on May 13, the Indian government imposed an export ban on wheat, though it said it would make exceptions for specific countries in need. Nonetheless, there are 26 countries implementing severe restrictions on food exports. In many cases, they're outright bans. Yet by some estimates, 4/5 of the global population live in countries which are net importers of food. In 2021, Russia and Ukraine were the world's first and fifth biggest exporters of wheat, 28% of the world market. The United Nations World Food Programme, on which more than 115 million people depend, last year secured 50% of its wheat from Ukraine. It's now saying the war could drive 47 million more people into acute food insecurity. As I raised last week with Matt Canavan, farms also need fertiliser, but China and Russia have banned the export of fertilisers. As Matt Canavan said, they weren't worried in Glasgow, China and Russia, about what the temperature would be in 2050. They were worried about how we can grow food in 2030. Half the food we eat is only grown thanks to fertilisers that are made from fossil fuels. But remember, Bant and the Greens are talking about getting rid of coal, gas and oil by 2030. What do they know about growing food? Natural gas is the main feedstock that is used to convert carbon dioxide, hydrogen and nitrogen into a fertiliser known as urea. Wheat yields up until now have tripled over the past 60 years thanks to fossil fuels from which fertilisers are born. World hunger has disappeared. It may not stay. For those going on about demonising fossil fuels, do they know anything about the fact that fossil fuels have a profound impact on the growing of food?